How y'all doing this fine morning? It's Data back on trail here at the Storres Lake segment of the Ice Age Trail. And I'm going to hike about a 15-mile section today from Janesville up to Storres Lake. Today's hike is going to take me through first well-developed urban parks and bike paths that are paved, then a short road walk, and then finally into a more rugged wilderness area. This first part of the trail through a park just takes you through the edge of a really nice neighborhood with some beautiful homes. As suburban neighborhoods go, it's a pretty nice little hiking trail right here. Looks like these would be for leg lifts or something. Let's see, yeah. This is the leg press station. So just a little bit further north on the Janesville section of the Ice Age Trail, you start following a little stream. Somebody has set up a rather creative and, perhaps official, perhaps not, but welcomed, I'm sure, by the birdies, set of birdhouses. There's the first blaze that I filmed of the day. I've actually gone by several, but I do kind of dig the A-frame versions of them. That's the second one of those, little A-frame birdhouse. So at the half-an-hour mark, I'm already over 1.5 miles into the trail. That's a 3-mile-an-hour pace. So I am reminding myself again that there is a real difference between how fast you can hike this trail versus how slowly and carefully you have to hike the Appalachian trails. I don't know if you can see the size and scope of them up on the valley ridge to the east. There are some very large, very fancy houses. Well, I've come under Highway 14 and come to the largest blaze I might have ever seen on the Ice Age Trail. And I'm headed to that Pine Tree Plaza. So I have about 1 mile to go to that plaza, and there's a Starbucks in there. I think I'm going to stop and have a second breakfast today. So I finished up with a 15-minute break at the Starbucks, had my second breakfast, and then walked behind the shopping center where the trail runs parallel to a road that is currently a construction project. Far Out warns about this, but the construction project is on the road, and it's actually, I think, pretty much done. So again, off on one side, there's actually a nice big valley. And now I'm 4.4 miles or so in on the day. My next stop will be about 5.5 miles from here in the town of Milton, probably at the Milton Family Cafe. I'm hiking this 15+ mile stretch between Janesville and just past Milton to Storres Lake segment because I can do this in one day. Well, it adds on to the last segment that I did here. But I'm doing it today because it's November 20th, and this will be my last chance to hike up in Wisconsin on the Ice Age Trail until late December or early January, probably, because it's gun hunting season for deer. Parts of the trail get closed during gun hunting season, of course. I want to let the hunters get out there and cull the deer herds because there are plenty of deer on the Ice Age Trail. And so far today, every bit of today's path has been paved. So I'm hiking at a really quick clip and only using one pole. So I'm on a street called Rothammer, or something like that. I'll put it up here in the captions. This is the only road walk of any length today. I've been on it for a mile or so, and I have about another mile left. Eventually you cut back onto a rail to trail, and this is the only sign marker, so I'll document this on Far Out, but it actually wasn't too hard to spot, but that's partly because it's fall. So now for the first time today, I get to hike on an actual dirt trail. Coming up on a street crossing, I have run into my first Leopold bench. I have built a couple of these myself at my house. at the homestead. But this very simple design was a product of necessity. Although Leopold was a famous forestry guy and naturalist in the very early days of the Forestry Service, built one of those benches originally of his own design at his Sand County farm. So I highly recommend folks read the Sand County Almanac, which is his tales about developing that property with his family, and generally his thoughts on the land ethos and our relationship to nature. Now I come to a road crossing. I'm onto a multi-use trail, as you can see, but it's still been all dirt. So it's a little after 11:30. I'm a little more than 8.5 miles, almost 9 miles in on the day. So I've been moving at a 3-mile-an-hour pace, even, including the half-an-hour break or 20-minute break at Starbucks. So yeah, I have to remember how much easier a trail, in terms of degree of difficulty, the Ice Age Trail is. I enjoy the parts of the Ice Age Trail in particular where they've taken an old road and they've made it into some kind of a trail, but on both sides of it, it's still farmland. Every once in a while, there'll be a break in this tree line on either side of me, and it'll be a place where farmers access their fields, or as deer also use that as a little animal highway. That's an Ice Age Trail blaze. And you tend to get blazing and another Leopold bench. And also some other kind of benches, and then a kiosk at the beginning and end of different segments of the Ice Age Trail to let you know kind of what the name of that segment is. And it also usually marks a transition from an actual Ice Age Trail segment either into another Ice Age Trail segment or into a roadwalk area. This is the north end of this Rock Island County Parks multi-use trail. And there is an Ice Age Trail blaze right here. And this begins the Milton segment, as this kiosk right here indicates. It's nice that they list folks from all the wars together on one series of slabs to note the depth of service the people in this community have given over very long periods of time, along with an MIA-POW monument. So to the town of Milton, thank you for finding such a dignified way to remind us all of our history and to honor the fallen. So now on the eastern edge of Milton, and I'm passing by Milton House. I'll put a link to some more detailed information in the description of this video, but Milton House was an octagonal house built back pre-Civil War that served as one of the northern endpoints for the Underground Railroad. It's now a museum, and it's open to the public, but it's only open today for another half an hour or so. And I really want to spend some time in it, since part of my family history, as some viewers will know, was that I was raised a Quaker, and we had some familial connection to the Underground Railroad in the community that I was raised in. So, the beginning of that last segment. And down by this lake someplace, the infantry unit, of which Abraham Lincoln was a member, camped out during the Black Hawk Wars. there's a kiosk at the beginning of the Storres Lake segment. This one is especially nice because it has a picnic table built into it. And here's the first blaze of this segment. This last segment is the most wooded of all of the segments today. There's some side trails here in the Storres Lake segment that I won't be going down today. Yikes! So this part of the trail around Storres Lake actually just got rugged enough that I've tripped on a couple of gnarly little roots buried underneath the leaves. So I'm having to actually pay attention to footings for the first time today. It's all well blazed. I think this means I'm supposed to go this way. These two blazes in a row. Both pretty and kind of ominous on a cloudy November afternoon. Look how calm the water is. You might be able to tell or might not, on the far side of the lake there, somebody has a great big old house. Storres Lake segment is really nice. It's a fully wooded area around it. There are a few small side trails. But I'm hiking all the way through it to my car because I couldn't tell online if there would be good places to stealth camp or not. But it turns out that this is a great segment to stealth camp in because the Ice Age Trail the curvature on the map that is shown on far out, it turns out really does just follow the edge of the lake, as you can kind of see off to the left in this camera shot. And it's a pretty good sized lake. Here's one that came down across the trail recently. Been down long enough they just went ahead and painted a blaze on it. Thank you, Reverend Swanson and their family. It's a nice bench, and it's a beautiful view of the lake. So I'm 1.2 miles south of my destination, which is the north parking area for the Storres Lake segment on the Ice Age Trail, and I've come upon the boardwalk. I have bought some winter hiking gear, including a 0-degree quilt, so I am going to try to get up here in the dead of winter and do some wintertime hiking. Probably not with snow on the ground, but test my setup out is almost like a shakedown hike by knocking off 15 or 30 or 45 miles or so up here on sections of the Ice Age Trail in preparation for the hikes I'll be doing next year very early in the spring on the Appalachian Trail. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera at all, but this Storres Lake segment is also just a little bit hilly. And these boardwalks look pretty new right here. Thank you to the Ice Age Trail crews. Well, one thing I think you can say for the Ice Age Trail segment crews is when they decide to build a boardwalk or a bridge or something, they do a nice job of constructing something that's stable, and they're really well done. Feeder stream that feeds into Storres Lake. This cutout's even got benches in case you wanted to sit and take a load off for a minute. Admire the scenery. Well, thanks again to the trail building crew on the Ice Age Trail, because this little meandering boardwalk took me right across a great big marshy area. I don't doubt if I could have gotten across that without a boardwalk either, so thank you very much for this relatively new boardwalk. So this northern section of the Storres Lake segment keeps routing me around the brim of a set of depressions, like this one. Probably hard to see on the camera, but they're like little holes in the landscape. And I'm pretty sure, at least I suspect, those are geological formations left behind by the Ice Age and the last glaciers, from which this hike draws its rationale for being a unique space. It's a little hard to capture on the camera, but they look sort of like, almost like a volcanic depression or like a sinkhole. So that's why this segment has had some ups and downs. It is kind of humorous after a whole day of hiking on extremely flat, level ground at 3 miles an hour and more, through some small town and some suburban areas in Milton and Janesville, and even on some of the short road walks to get to the last couple of miles of this segment. All of a sudden bump into the remnants of the glacier, I think. Having finished up my hike for the day, I'm back here with Old Blue at the space that I parked in this morning at the Storres Lake segment north parking area. I hiked 15.2 miles today in 6 hours, so that's a little bit less than 3 miles an hour, and that is really good. So I'm very happy with that outcome. And now I'm going to pack everything up in Old Blue and head back to Chicagoland and see Mrs. Data and report back in. So, hope you all are having as good a day as I'm having. See you around. Happy trails.